Hey guys, so we have a new plugin today. Um, this is an upgrade to the previous plugin for that had pagination and search separately. In this case, we actually decided to combine both into one plugin, and then they added a new filters feature into that as well. So the most requested feature so far from our previous plugins was to actually create one plugin that had both functionalities. So we we obliged, and then yeah, the plugin is here. So it's called this famous CMS Manager version 2. So how it works is similar to version 1 in that when you install the plugin, you just drag and drop it onto your canvas, and then you have the plugin good to go. Now, once you've done that, click on the plugin, you add your license key, and then you make changes to the pagination settings. So once that is done, you just need to add the classes that you need. So just the same way it works in version 1. But in this case, we have multiple containers. So yeah, if you want pagination, you add this class. If you want search, you add this, and if you want filter, you add this. But if you want multiple features at once, say for example you want to add both pagination and search, you add the container classes for pagination, and then you add the one for search as well. So yeah, something like this. So if I come here as well and I do an edit, yeah, you can see I added all three. That's filter, search, and pagination. Now, once you've done that, you also need to add the pagination classes to the elements that will handle pagination. For example, the previous button, the next button, and then the pagination container, the pagination control container itself. So here we have this. So these items actually just okay. So yeah, for the previous, we had the pagination priv class. So yeah, this is it. And then for the next as well, we had its own class. So just basically these two classes. Now, once you've done that, pagination should actually just start working right out of the bag. Now for search, you have just two classes you need to add aside from the container. So you have the search input, and then you have the searchable. Now, what I just did for getting this input box was to use the form builder here in Framer. I just picked the form builder, and I selected, then I picked out the text box, and then I used it for my search. So you can easily just do that. Now for the text inputs, you give it the search input class, which is this, and then for the content that needs to be searched, I'm interested in searching this description here, like this 1920s warehouse or the flood resilient community. So basically that description in the middle. So I'll select that description, the subtitle, and then I'll give it the searchable class, which is this. Now the search should also start working that way. And lastly, for filters, so I need to give each of these tags the filter inputs class. So filters is where you need to pay a bit more attention here, because the filter input has two parameters. So the first one is a name, like a common identifier that you want to give to the filter input and the content it should be filtering. So for example, here I'm using the name categories. Yeah. Then the filter type, I'm using single. So you have two filter types in this case. Single means that when I select one filter, say for example, I select residential, when I select residential, for example, and then I go on to select maybe agriculture, it's not going to filter using both of them. It will only pick agriculture. So it's only going to handle one filter at a time. But if I change that to multiple, that if I change the filter type to multiple, so in that case, it's going to allow the filtering by two different filters. So that in that case, it's going to allow both residential and agriculture. So it's going to be able to help you find or filter items that have both of those. So once you've been able to add that, then you also need to add the item or the content that you're filtering for. So in this case, I'm filtering for this tag, this residential agricultural tag. So if I come here, the name is tag. I just give it the filterable class, which is this, and then I add that name that I added, that identifier. So in this case, categories. So yes, you can see an example of that here. Now, once that is done, the final thing to consider is that, say for example, I want to go back to all projects after I have maybe filtered by anything I want, and I just want to take everything back to default. So you need to add a different class entirely to this all projects. In this case, the class will be filter input all, so which is this last filter here. So adding that to all projects will let the plugin know that you are trying to like take everything back to the way it was before. That you don't want to apply any more filters. So that's that class here. Now, once that is done, you can test out the project. So pagination, as you can see, just works right out of the bat. Paginating. So everything works as it's supposed to, no issues. Now, I can also filter by residential, agriculture, commercial, and I can go back to all projects, and then my pagination still works as expected. Then I can do a search. So there is nothing like flow, but there is flood in this case. So this works as expected. And then when I delete that, everything goes back to normal. Then I can also combine the features of multiple plugins. Say for example, I do a set for and. It's going to look for everything that has and. As you can see, this is and. Then pagination still works. In this case, there are just 5 items that have the word and in them. So it's going to just search for all those 5 items, and I can paginate through them as well. And when I delete this, everything goes back to the way it should be as well.